Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, the funeral service of Mrs. Muriel Berns, Rabbi Lisa Bellows from Congregation Beth Am will be officiating. We welcome those of you who are joining us via live stream. Just as a last and gentle reminder, please be sure your phones are off. 1 second, Rabbi.
It's not a surprise that there are so many friends, family here to celebrate Muriel's life and to say goodbye to her. She was the beloved wife of the late Frank, loving mother of Ilene, married to Ed, to Rick, married to Heidi. She was the cherished grandmother of Lisa, married to Kyle, and Julie, married to Sam, and to Ryan. She was the treasured Nana of Connor, Caylee, Matti, and Asa. She was the dear sister of Bertha, of the late Bertha, the late Esther, the late Edith. She was the favorite aunt of nieces Phyllis and Fern, Carol and Hilary. She was the fond aunt of Jordan, Judy, Donnalyn, Marla, and the late Harmon. For her life that united us in life and in death, which cannot sever. For her companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give thanks to God. In times like these, moments of grief and sorrow, we receive comfort from family, a measure of comfort from friends and community, and also perhaps from the words of our psalmist, King David. King David was a man who wrote about issues of love and loss, of life, death, and faith. You have the 23rd Psalm and the inside cover of the leaflet. I'll offer the first few verses in Hebrew. Adonai ro'i lo echzar, bino deshe yarbiteni, Almei menachot yenachaleni. The Holy One is my guide, my life is whole. We journey together over fertile hillsides and rest beside nourishing springs. This is my spirit ever renewed, for my guide leads me down paths of fullness. Even when my steps lead into the realm of death, I do not fear, for I know you are with me. Your presence, your shelter is a comfort to me. With you, I can set myself aright in the face of deepest sorrow. and soon my joy is filled to overflowing. As I journey on, nothing but kindness and love shall follow until the day I finally return to my source, my destination. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from birth, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backwards or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage, made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. In the book of Ecclesiastes, we read that there's a time to keep silent and there's a time to speak. To offer words and memories from their hearts, I invite to come forward Muriel's daughter Ilene and son-in-law Ed, her niece Fern, her niece Phyllis. Ilene.
There's a beautiful maple tree in our backyard. It stands gloriously about 30 feet high now, but it wasn't always that way. My mom and dad gave it to us about 25 years ago as a small sapling. No one would have predicted that this tree would survive the challenges it has faced, with its roots tightly wrapped around its trunk. But it has survived. It has flourished and brought beauty, shade, and wisdom into our lives. Like my mom, the tree is resilient, and it has survived the odds stacked against it. My mom, Muriel Morgan Berns, had the odds stacked against her. As a child, she survived serious illness, including scarlet fever. Her father was ill throughout her young life, and he died when she was 10. At age 70, Muriel survived emergency triple bypass surgery. But with her resilience and her grit, my mom has kept going until last Friday. And even at 97 in her final days, my mom shared with us lessons in resilience and in love. Mom was still getting up and walking until just 2 weeks ago when she fell down. And for the first time, she couldn't get back up. We lost her this week, and it's very hard to say goodbye. We know nobody lives forever. We know that life is impermanent. And this week, after so many years of helping us, we walked her home. These past few years have been an almost constant reminder of life's impermanence. Things just keep changing. But perhaps, as my mom taught us, and so many other elders in our lives, the greatest continuity is love. Love for each other and love for the great love that connects all of us. I'll continue to learn many things from my mom. We all will. But the most important lessons for all of us, in my mind, will be about resilience and acts of love, how we show up in our lives and how we live our lives. My mom was always there for us. She clocked many, many hours of parenting and energetic, devoted grandparenting, including the best daycare ever. And as Nana got older, she did as much great-grandparenting as she could muster. Through it all, in each season of life, there was always love. Our mom and dad were married for 61 years, and some of you knew my dad, but you may not know that Muriel had two Franks in her life. Frank Berns, my dad, and a second Frank, the chairman of the board, Frank Sinatra. Of course, Muriel truly loved our dad, Rick's dad and my dad, for those 61 years of marriage, raising us, Rick and me. But from afar, Muriel also loved another Frank, Frank Sinatra. And as a young adult, when she worked in downtown Chicago, Muriel would go listen to him at the clubs. And even in her last months, when she recalled very little, our mom could sing along with My Way and Fly Me to the Moon. It was remarkable to hear and see her mouthing the words right along with Frank. And more than anything, though, our mom, loved her family. She loved Rick, and she loved me. She loved our spouses, Ed and Heidi, not as in-laws, but as her own children. I'm a little verklempt, 1 second. Okay. She adored her three beloved grandchildren, Ryan, Julie, and Lisa. She loved her grandson, her grandson-in-laws, Kyle and Sam. Julie and Lisa, she was so proud of you always. And Ryan, Grandma was proud of you, and she would be so proud of the adult you are growing into. And oh, Nana loved her four precious great-grandchildren. Connor, Caylee, you're sitting in the right order, that's great, right? Connor, Caylee, Matti, and Asa. She loved you so very much. All through her battle with dementia, even into her final weeks, she would smile brightly, absolutely light up when she looked at photos and watched videos of her precious Asa, Matti, Caylee, and Connor. I'll leave it to others to say more about Muriel, her resilience, her chutzpah, her creativity, and her chesed, her loving kindness. And Ed will conclude our remarks with the words of epitaph by Merritt Malloy that we think would echo sentiments Mom would want to share.
When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that want to die. If you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live on in your eyes and not your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when it's all that's left of me is love, give me away. Lastly, I'd like to share that I lost my own mother more than 20 years ago. Since that time, I have truly felt that my mother-in-law, Muriel, adopted me as her second son. Over the years, we became very close, and especially during the last 5, when she was living in assisted living and memory care. From the moment I joined this family, Muriel welcomed me with open arms and an open heart. She was always there for me when I needed help or direction or advice. Today we gather not only to mourn the passing of a remarkable woman that I called Mom for the last 20 years, but also to celebrate a life that touched each of us in profound ways. In her passing, we mourn the loss of a beloved mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, aunt, friend, and mentor. But we also celebrate a life that was lived to the fullest, leaving behind a legacy of love and integrity that will continue to inspire us all.
My mother had 3 sisters, and her youngest sister, Muriel, was her favorite. Muriel was the baby of the family, born 12 years after my mother, and my mother had the honor of naming her. Now, family lore has it that Bertha originally chose the name Myrtle. This is something I just recently heard. And her mother wisely later changed it to Muriel, but that's not what I was told by my mother. She thought that it was the most glamorous, beautiful name, and she named her. Muriel was very protected by her big sisters, and after having scarlet fever as a child and her father dying when she was very young, no health chances were taken. The sisters turned out to be strong, resilient women, strength forged in the Depression when each one went to work as soon as they graduated early from high school. My Aunt Muriel and my grandmother lived with us all of my childhood. She shared a bedroom with her mother in our not very large homes. Thinking back as to how it was possible that so many of us lived harmoniously together in a very small home, I really don't know how we did it, but I have no bad memories of arguments or drama. My mother loved her younger sister, and it was a given that we would all be together without jealousy or rancor. We looked up to Muriel as the fashionista of her day and the height of modernity. Her beaux were evaluated by us. The standard was if they talked to us, if they brought us something, or if they played with us. Uncle Frank won the race hands down. He actually liked us, and we liked him a lot. I don't remember much about their wedding. I think I was disappointed because it wasn't the Cinderella affair that I was hoping for. When they bought a house, it became our favorite place to go. They furnished it in what is now called mid-century modern. Another thing Aunt Muriel loved was turquoise. And in her very modern kitchen, she had a turquoise breakfast nook and a Formica top table to match, which we thought was very cool. Turquoise jewelry was also something she loved, which is why I chose to wear all this turquoise today. We moved to the north side and lived biking or walking distance away. Of course, you need to know that we only had one bike for 3 of us to share, which means that I pedaled while my twin sister Carol, who was smaller and thinner, sat on the back fender. And there were no seats on the back fender at that time. It was just the back fender. Whenever we had nothing to do, or Muriel or Frank needed a babysitter, we were there. Ilene was the adorable little girl we would dress up and play with, and Rick was the rascal that we chased in the backyard. Their house was so modern and cool to us, and Uncle Frank had finished the basement, and it was a wonderful place to be in the summer. I think that Muriel lived vicariously through our adolescence, because she certainly didn't have the same freedom that we had. For my senior prom, she beaded a sweater for me to match my spaghetti strap dress so that I wouldn't be cold. She knitted warm baby snowsuits complete with hood or hat and mittens for all of our babies. She always had a big smile when we visited, and she loved our husbands and children. Like my mom and dad, there were no guilt trips about not visiting more often. She was just happy to see us. She mourned along with us the death of my twin sister Carol, Phyllis's husband Larry, my husband Bill, and most recently would have, if we told her about it, my husband Steve. She always ended every phone call or visit when he wasn't with me with, "Give Steve a hug and a kiss for me." My dear Aunt Muriel, you will always be remembered for your warmth and your kindness, your smile, for your love, and the joy in your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and in us, your nieces and your families. You and your sister Bertha taught us by example how to be loving sisters and cousins forever.
Hi, I'm Fern's sister, and I'm the oldest sister. There are three of us. When I was born, Aunt Muriel was 16 years old. She and my bubby, her mother, lived with our family, my twin sisters, Fern and Carol, my father, Eli, the single male, and my mother, Bertha. The best time for me were the years when she was being courted by quite a few beaux. I would sneak out of my bedroom and peek into the living room to check out the new guy. The one that I fell in love with was Frank Berns, and thankfully she did too. Kind, gentle, and a sweetheart, he always made me feel important and loved. As my sisters and I grew up, Aunt Muriel and Uncle Frank were always there for us. Aunt Muriel made me feel understood and loved through all the stages of my life. My husband, Larry, loved her to pieces, as my mother would say. I am so thankful that I was able to be with Aunt Muriel those last few days of her life. I will cherish my memories. I will always miss her. She will be forever in my heart. And this is the Aunt Muriel I'll always remember. Thank you.
I got to hear the other day some really wonderful memories that make a person laugh, make a person smile in gratitude. I'll just share a few. We know that Muriel did not have an easy life, but she had a good life because you were in it. Heidi recalls how she was accepted into the family. Muriel always wanted to make sure that family events and gatherings were special and that everybody felt welcome. Rick, in your younger years, she wanted to make sure that you were okay, so she bought you cookbooks, helped a bit with the curtains, or at least she wanted to. You did crossword puzzles together. You often finished them. You watched Jeopardy together. And she passed down to you her love for reading. Ilene, I have this great image of you sharing when the girls were so young that she would come not only to see Lisa and Julie and help take care, but Ilene take care of you so that you could take care of them. She was a loving and caring grandmother. Ryan, you remember going to Elwood's on Lincoln Avenue, and she would always get the brisket sandwich on the onion roll. Growing up, Lisa and Julie remember the time she spent watching them as young kids. You'd go to the pool. At the house in the background, the kitchen TV would always be on with the game shows. She'd take you each to Golf Mill on your birthday, shopping. The grandchildren remember that she always had bran muffins in her freezer at the landings off Gulf Road. Everyone loved her famous eclair cake. She always made extra for the grandchildren. The cranberries, the cheesy spaghetti, salmon patties, knishes, the best original Toll House chocolate chip cookies, and she'd place her delicious chocolate-covered strawberries in that pretty cupcake wrapper. and then place them so lovingly on the plate for you. There was more. Her recipes, secret ingredient being love, will be forever carried down by the generations. She was a special and doting Nana. Caylee, you remember making jewelry with her and spending time together. Connor remembers all the handmade bracelets that she gave him and how they played cards together. Matti and Asa remember her kindness, the bracelets, the time she spent with them. They had so much fun. If you knew Muriel, you know that she loved her birthday, which was March 17th, also known as St. Patrick's Day. She wore green. She would have her children wear green. She was creative and talented. She was known for the paper flowers that she made and the beautiful handwriting that she had on the invitations she created. Her knitted gifts are treasures passed down to the generations. She was a Martha Stewart before Martha Stewart came along. Family, Muriel taught you well. She passed down to you the values of family and devotion to family. She taught you what it means to care about people and to care for them. She was thoughtful, kind, fun, creative, strong, and resilient. So family, all of us, we hope that we can continue her legacy and carry these values with us always, place them out into the universe so that she will continue to make this world a better place because she was in it. Muriel was a righteous woman. May her name and her memory be for a blessing and an inspiration. We began the service with Psalm 23, which reminds the mourners that we are never alone, even in times of sadness and grief. And this next prayer, called El Malei Rachamim, is a prayer just for Muriel, that she be received with love and care and tenderness. If you're able, please rise. I'll chant the Hebrew and then translate the English into English. El Malei Rachamim Shochen Bamromim Hametzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina Im Kedoshim Utoharim Kezohar Haraki HaMazhirim Et Nishmat Masha Bat William Basara Shalcha Le'olama Baal Harachamim Yastireha B'Seter Kenafav Le'olamim Ve'yitzur B'Yitzur HaChayim Et Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata V'tanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkava V'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Muriel Berns, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in the shadow of your wings. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. Together we say, Amen. May she rest in peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, the interment service will continue at West Lawn Cemetery. located at 7801 West Montrose in Norridge. The family will be returning to the Berns-Zare residence today following the interment. I will have the times. I do apologize. I noticed that the times are not on here, so please forgive me. Give me one moment, and I'll have that for you. Memorial contributions to Congregation Beth Am or the Council for Jewish Elderly. That information is on the service folder. For those of you who are watching online, all that information can be found on the website. For those of you who will be driving in the funeral procession, will be forming in the parking lot, please obtain an orange safety funeral sticker to place on the right-hand side of your windshield. Have your bright lights and hazard lights on at all times. For additional measures of safety, we will be providing many of the cars with a flag that'll be affixed to the top portion of your car, and we'll have a car in the back of the procession to keep other cars from entering the procession. Use your horn liberally, and please do not speak or text on your cellular phone while driving to the cemetery. At this time, I invite the pallbearers to come forward and everyone to please rise as we escort the casket of Muriel Berns from the chapel. The shiva will be Monday today following the interment till 8:30, Tuesday and Wednesday from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. That's today again following the interment till 8:30, Tuesday and Wednesday 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, you may return to your cars.